Hello, and welcome to the first event of the 2020 Virtual RPG Fest. Paint miniatures like a pro, even if you're not. My name is Jake, and I'll be your host. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and paint up some miniatures that you have with everyday board gaming. So we're going to take it from the way it comes to you, which is very gray and plastic, all the way to a painted miniature. So some of the things that we're going to need is the miniature, obviously. Then you're going to need a little bit of paint. So various colors. They make specific miniature painting paints. So if you're lucky enough to have some of that, that is typically the best because it's made specifically for this, but any paint can work. Then you'll need a couple of fine-tipped paint brushes. They're a little bit small. And some other things that will be required is just a little cup for some water for rinsing off your paintbrushes, some paper towel for drying the paintbrushes, and then a palette of some kind. You can use like a plastic lid, or if you have it at home, parchment paper works great for painting because it allows the paint to rest on it without drying out super fast. So, and it doesn't leak anything through. So what we're going to do is take you through a 3-step process to get some pretty nice miniatures with the minimal amount of time invested. So what we do is we start off with a base coat, which is basically putting the majority of the colors where you want them on the model. So for instance, my guy is a frog, so he got a lot of green, and then I made his loincloth red, and his cape is a furry white color. So you just want to try and get all of your base colors where they should go. And then what we do is a wash stage, which I'll show you in a minute. It has a little bit thinner of a paint, and it will allow you to create a lot of definition in your model because it's got all these creases and crevices and stuff like that, and the wash will pool into those recesses, giving it a lot of depth and shading all in one step, and it's very quick and easy. And then the third step is the highlighting step. So once you wash it with the darker colors to really get into the recesses, you then want to bring out the higher portions of your model so that way it looks like the light is reflecting off of it, and it gives the shading even more definition because you're then highlighting on top of it. So with those 3 steps though, you can get some pretty nice results, and I mean, this model took me about 2.5 hours to do. So and you can stop at any point if you don't want to keep going. And obviously the more you highlight, the better the model's going to look. The more layers of highlighting you put on there. So let's get started with the base coating. Here's a little note about the thickness of your paint. So as you can see, when you squeeze it out of your bottle, it's pretty thick. Now you're not going to want to put that directly on your model because it will fill in some of the smaller details. So as you can see, it's really thick. So what you want to do is take your brush and grab a couple little drops of water and mix that in with it. That thins the paint down a little bit and makes it so that it won't fill in those cracks or tiny details. So you want it to look like that. And you'll know when you've gone too far because the paint will start to like collect. See, down here is too thin. you want it to be right around in here with just a little bit of water. That way it still covers, but it's not going to fill in any of the details of your very nice model. The base coating step is basically trying to get the colors on your model where you want them to be. So it's easiest to start on the most recessed portions or the lowest parts of the model and then work your way back out, because it's inevitable that your brush is going to hit some part of the model that is unintentional. And it's easier to fix the more raised portions than it is to try and get back in very detailed to the recessed areas. So for the washes, this paint is a little bit different than what we were using for our base coat. This is a lot thinner right out of the bottle. It's very, very, very thin. So what this does is it allows it to automatically pool into the recesses and giving your model more depth. But even though this is thinner than what we were originally using, I still like to put a little bit of water in with it to thin it down even just that tiny bit further. As you can see with this, the color is barely changing, but you'll notice that all of the cracks and crevices are getting a lot deeper tone, giving the entire model a very nice, detailed paint job. And that's the look we're going for with this step. Washes can be difficult to work with if you've never done this before. But don't worry, if you get too much on there at any one point, you can dry your brush off and take all of the wash right back off again if it's pooling too much and you notice that you're not liking the effect of the look of it. If you don't have any specialty washes like these, what you can do is take your regular paints and water them down till you get the consistency that you see. The result won't be exactly the same as specialty made wash paints, but it will be very, very close and a lot cheaper.
When you're highlighting, you're trying to get just the most raised portions and the most prominent surfaces just a little bit lighter of a color. You can do this by adding just a little bit of white or a lighter color to the base coat that you had and going over not the whole surface, just parts of the surface, like around the edges, and filling in the larger surfaces of a flat model, for example, imitating where light would have hit it. And you can choose where you want your light to be coming from in this stage. It forces a perspective. And remember, when highlighting, you don't want to paint over every surface and ruin everything that you've done already. You're just trying to pick out the most raised portions, or the edges, or the most prominent features for that extra little bit of definition. If you like this video, please check back on September 19th and September 26th for more RPG programming.